I kind of feel sorry for Keir Starmer, and here's why. So, guys, I thought let me just hop on like YouTube, like the podcast. Like I was gonna do the whole Black and Raw intro, but it's just really it's just an episode for us to talk. But if you don't know, welcome to the Black and Raw podcast. I'm your host Tino Kudatondarai Funzalbaya. Not repeating that. Here is a podcast that is creating the dialogue and a space for Black men to be their most authentic selves. Now, Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer has gone. Guys, I think this is our seventh prime minister in 10 years. And unlike other prime ministers, I feel like Keir Starmer has got the brunt of it in terms of the perception of him, right? Because Keir came in thinking, okay, if I'm just a good, decent lad that gets the job done, puts his head down, and is able to, show what I'm doing. Like, but he's done some stuff. Migration is down. I don't know if that's directly him. I know the Conservatives put in quite a few policies that kicked in when he was there. Obviously, Shabana Mahmood and all her rhetoric. But and I remember I was listening to a podcast the other day. No, actually not a podcast. A radio advert, to say that the Labour government are opening new health centres across the UK. And also, topping that, migration is down. The economy is okay. It's stable. It's not great, but it's not growing. But then it's not receding as much. He also done the 2-child benefit cap. There was a lot of things that Keir Starmer had done that I feel like he didn't get credit for. But the thing is, what Keir Starmer didn't do is give himself credit for it. Don't get me wrong, he had scandals. And I think that's what I'm seeing a lot. When the Labour government came in, like, I know everyone voted for change, and I voted for change as well. It was also anyone but the Tories. But in terms of the change that we want to see in our country, I can't lie, it's going to happen really slowly. I feel like every world leader in the last 10 years has not been able to really function normally because there's always been a crisis, right? Even if we go back to the 2008 crisis, right? Had the 2008 crisis, then you had Russia invading Crimea, and then you then had Israel and Iran and COVID and Brexit. Like, I remember I was doing a timeline with my dad, and I was like, every 2 years, something in the world significantly happens that shakes the world. And right now, Trump shakes the world constantly because he's at the center of attention. We move on from Trump, but Trump will also loop back into all of this. So, yeah, I don't feel like any world leader really has been able to grow their economy, to meet, I don't know, their targets, whatever targets each world leader has, because there's always been an emergency that's required either funds or printing money, or like having to delay because you're like, we can't do that because of this happening over here, Ukraine, and all of those things, right? So Keir Starmer, I feel like, came into government with a mandate of change, but he wasn't able to sell that vision or that change. And that, I think, was ultimately his problem. He doesn't have the gift of the gab. Keir Starmer can't do what I'm doing with you right now, just riffing, like just talking like this. That's why Nigel Farage does so well. And I don't even like to use him but as an example, but that he can just talk off the bat. He doesn't need a script. He's very loose. He's flexible. Like Zoran Mandani, like he's a guy that, like, when you just hear him and he does speeches and you're like, dope, bro, this dude should run for president. Now, don't get me wrong. That's what Boris Johnson did well. Boris Johnson talked the talk very well, but he didn't execute, right? And Keir Starmer executed, but couldn't talk the talk. He couldn't praise himself. It didn't feel like he ever wanted to say, this is what I've done and why I'm doing it, and this is what we're doing next. This is the vision. He couldn't take people on a journey. He couldn't take people on a vision of what he wants the UK to be. And I think that is ultimately what got him in the end, because, yeah, he had the Peter Mandelson scandal, and that scandal was bonkers because he already had an ambassador ready. Like, we already had an ambassador ready, but he thought, oh, this guy would work better for Trump. That was his fault. That was his fault, and I partially blame him for it, and I partially don't, because every world leader was kissing Trump's ass at one point, except some. Xi Jinping never kisses anybody's asses. The Spanish PM, or I don't know what they call them. I'll just go Spanish PM. He wasn't. Von der Leyen, yeah, kind of. The UN, yeah, kind of. Um, I don't think there was anyone else that tried to stand up to Trump in the beginning. Everyone was trying to kiss his ass, but that's because he's, he's running the most powerful country in the world that can make decisions. And I think the UK and the US, obviously, they talk about the special relationship, but in terms of, yeah, the UK is a very small country, right, compared to the States in terms of military power, in terms of influence. We rely on the US for a lot. And so I feel like Keir had to navigate that relationship quite tensely. And I think he also wanted Trump to stay on mission with Ukraine. So that's why he had to sort of bait Trump and keep him on side. And then all the tariffs that Trump was doing, and like we managed to get a lower tariff because Keir Starmer was able to navigate that relationship. But that relationship was never going to last. And I wish Keir Starmer had a bit more, let's just say, balls to him. I wish he had a bit more balls to him to be like, actually, no, this is wrong. And he eventually started doing that. Don't get me wrong. He eventually started doing that, which I was happy to see. But what it ultimately comes down to for Keir, he had so many U-turns as well. And I think that's also part of that vision too, that like if you have a vision of what you think the UK should be and the direction you should take it, then you've got to strongly follow that mission. And he couldn't do that. He couldn't follow that mission. And that's, I think, what ultimately got him in the end. No gift of the gab, no vision, couldn't take people on. So many U-turns. Trump, can't blame him for Trump, but Peter Mandelson. I'm sure there's other scandals as well. The one about him getting bare clothes and being paid for donors and glasses. Like, come on, like, can we actually just sit here and be real, please? If you're a PM, are you telling me that you're not accepting free suits and free glasses from someone, or you're not getting Arsenal tickets? Like, bro, I support Liverpool. If I was PM and a donor was like, yo, do you want to go and see Liverpool Man City? Yeah, in a nice box. Yeah, 100%. Like, that's the benefits. Like, because being a prime minister is a thankless job. So at least I'm also getting something out of it other than, helping improving my country and queen and country and the king. So Keir Starmer, I feel kind of bad for him. And the fact that also he was crying on the podium. And when I saw that, I kind of felt bad for him. I did see some TikTokers and Instagrammers. I'm going to name him. I like Femi, to be fair, actually. But I saw his take on Keir Starmer, and I don't think that was fair to the guy. I think to have some sympathy, because at the end of the day, this is a job that he has fought for and he's wanted and he's tried to do better. I don't believe Keir Starmer at heart is a guy that doesn't want to see the UK thrive. At heart, I don't believe that he's a guy that doesn't want to, because he's a human rights lawyer, right? By trade. So he's got to have a heart about him. But ultimately, a lot of things got him. So what does this mean for us in the UK? I'll come on to that next. So what does this mean for us in the UK? So now we have a new leader. Not yet, but come on, it's going to be Andy Burnham, right? Like, why are we pretending that it's going to be anybody else? As much as I would love to see a leadership election for some new ideas, I think the Tory chaos of leadership bids and all of that, I don't think that's what the UK needs right now. So if the Labour government believe that Andy Burnham is the guy, then he's the guy. And I like Andy. Andy has what Keir Starmer doesn't, the gift of the gab. Andy Burnham can talk. Andy Burnham is a lad you feel like you can have a pint with, right? And I think that's ultimately what is going to help him. I remember I was listening to a podcast, like probably one of the Guardians or Coffee House Shots, really good political podcasts. You can maybe tell I'm a bit left-leaning. But Coffee House, I feel like, is more neutral, actually, than left-leaning in terms of what people accuse the Guardian of. But I'm left-leaning anyway, so I don't care. What was I saying? Yeah, so I heard someone on one of those podcasts basically saying that there's not much that Andy Burnham is going to be able to do. One, without a new manifesto and a general election. And do I really want a general election right now? I don't know. That's a later topic for a different conversation. But he's going to be coming into the exact same conditions that Keir Starmer was. No money, public services need redoing everywhere. We don't have enough money. We're not creating enough money. We're not creating enough wealth. We're not having enough growth to be able to fund what Andy Burnham would want to do. Right? Even something as simple is absolutely roasting this week in the UK, and no one's talking about climate change. Just also, it's a little reference for my Substack. I got a post coming out on Monday, so watch out for that. About climate change too. It's behind the paywall, so sorry. But in terms of like, we need to build more reservoirs. Like he wants to build the HS2 line from Birmingham to Manchester, which actually should have been done first before Birmingham to London, because what, shaving off 15 minutes? Like, it takes an hour, like an hour and 10 minutes on a fast train to get from Birmingham to London. The North needs it more than we do, right? We need to build more houses. We need to, the green energy transition, we need to do that as well. Social care, what else? There's just so much that Britain needs doing. And the thing is with change happens so slowly. And especially as I've been saying throughout this podcast, that think about all the world leaders, they have not had a good stable 5 or 10 years to actually have things that are stable. The world is stable and they can build on that. And that's probably unrealistic, to be honest with you, to expect the world to be stable for 5 or 10 years. And so that's why change happens even slower, because you have world-shaking events happening all the time. It just feels like we're living through history all the time, guys. It's actually so jarring. But how is Andy Burnham going to do any different than Keir Starmer? He's probably not. But what they said is that he might be able to tell people a story. He might be able to take people along on a journey with him. And maybe that is what will keep Andy Burnham in for the next general election. 2 years to say, but if he decides that he's doing really well and wants another 5 years, then maybe he calls a general election next year, and we'll see where we're at with that. But I think Andy Burnham, he will be able to take people on a journey with him. He'll be able to talk off the cuff. I really want to see what he's going to look like in PMQs against Kemi, because Kemi's on fire at PMQs at the moment. So, but I really want to see what Andy will look like in that environment, in that time, and what policies he's going to take up and what policies he's not going to take up. Is he going to lean right on migration and lean left on climate change, or left on social care policy? Or, it's going to be really interesting to see how he's going to take the role of being PM. And that is going to be really interesting to see. But for us, in terms of us mere mortals, us just regular folk, I don't know what it's going to entail for us, to be honest with you, because I feel like we had Tories for 14 years. We had austerity, we had Brexit, we had Bojo, we had Liz Truss. I actually liked Richie Sunak, to be fair, actually. Richie Sunak was a guy, even though he was wealthier than almost everybody in Parliament. So, but I kind of liked Richie Sunak. I won't lie. I thought he was an all right PM, and I think he was just in a dying party, really. But Andy Burnham, what's he going to be able to do? Not much. And I was getting on to the point of, what does that mean for us? It just means you have to carry on with your life, really. And if there are things that we need to fight for and we need to protest for, then we go and do it. But just, I guess, the English phrase that you see when you go to London, keep calm and carry on, because we've been adjusting to having different leaders every 2 years and it just feels the same. So can Andy Burnham lift up the spirits of Britain? Can he do that? I don't know. I am optimistic because I like the guy, but I'm also pessimistic because I understand politics and the world and where we are at right now. So unless he calls a general election, unless he finds a secret pot of money somewhere, or finds, guys, like, I know I was coming to the end of this, but it's coming to, I'm dragging it out a bit, because I just feel like these guys go to like Cambridge and Oxford and big ass universities like that. And it just doesn't feel like anyone has creative solutions. Like, you can't tell me that we're just stuck like this. Like, are we just stuck like this? Is Britain just stuck in this no growth stalemate? Like, surely someone has some creative solutions. And like, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I know what we need to do and everything else like that, because I don't. I have ideas, but what do those ideas look like then when I actually have to go and pitch it to the nation, but also then get my MPs on board, but then also fight other MPs, and then I got to find the money to do those things, right? I don't know. I really don't know. And that's the saddening thing. But I guess as a black man, what does that mean for me? Keep calm and carry on. Do your thing. Earn your money. Insulate yourself as much as you can, that you don't have to necessarily rely on the state. That would maybe be my advice. I would love to live in a world where the state can support you, but the state empowers you to support yourself. It's preventative rather than reactionary. That's what my envisioning for a government or for a state to be. Like, how do we empower people but also empower businesses? Can you do both? I don't know. But if you empower people to get into jobs, they start paying tax, that we don't have to have such a big burden on mental health services. People can get back into work, or if we help retrain people for different new jobs, AI and all of that, and help people work from home from their laptops and earn an income, and therefore they can go off benefits because they've got the money and they're better insulated. Or we have more community staff that, like, we had Sure Starts years ago, and we had youth centers before austerity and all of that, and those preventative things helped, right? So I just wish a government was able to say, right, we're going to spend loads of money in these first 5 years, and we're going to build, build, build. And then the next 5 years, we're just going to calm it down and keep things maintained. But hopefully in those 5 years, we've pulled enough people out of poverty, we've pulled enough people off of benefits that we can, that all that money isn't going to people on benefits, that some people can work, some people can't work. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know what people's situations are. But there are maybe some people on benefits that can work, or that just need that. Maybe they feel down on their work because they haven't been there for ages and they don't feel like they're prepped for the workplace. Like, how do we help them be like, no, you can do it. Like, here's some jobs. Like, like, oh, like, how do we get them back into work? The youth unemployment is on the rise, and that's gonna then lead to a bigger deficit on the state. So, as part of my manifesto if I ever became PM. But I don't think I ever want to become PM, to be honest with you. It's a thankless job, and they'll out you if you make a few mistakes. Which, I'm kind of glad we live in a democracy where if you're doing poorly, we can out you, you know? And the freedoms that we've got in the UK. I remember I was talking to my cousin, and I'll end in just a second. We were talking about China and how, China's got all these technological advancements, and, their streets are really clean and all of this and that. But that comes with control. That comes with, you can't say anything about Xi Jinping. That comes with a social, like, scoring basis. You know what I mean? Like, there's no crime. Like, my cousin said he took my Fuji camera that's recording now, and he just had it out on the streets and no one tried to rob it. If I had left this Fuji camera in the middle of the street, it would be gone. Like, central London, it'd be gone. But like in China, because there's cameras everywhere, because there's that social system, people are less likely to steal because they'll just find you with CCTV cameras and then you're done. Then your social standing is... So, who knows? Who knows? But anyway, thanks for listening to this episode. It's just a bit of me rambling. If you like this and maybe you just want to hear me rambling about lots of different topics, then subscribe to my Substack. If you pay for it, then you'll be able to hear thoughts out loud. And that's just literally me. Either I'm going on a walk or I'm in the garden or I'm driving and I hear something and I just start ranting about it. Like I've talked about like politics, talked about climate change, talked about the England football team and my feelings about them and Tommy Tuchel, and then how racism fits into all of that and the legacy of slavery. Trump, oh my gosh, I rail against Trump. If you haven't got it by now, I'm not a huge fan of the guy, to be honest. Like, I can appreciate how he won the elections and how he done that in terms of like a strategist, but that's all. I don't like the guy. I don't like what he represents. So if you like that, if you like this, then that sort of vibe, but you get to listen to it. And if you'd like more videos like this, just let me know and let me know in the comments. I'm creating a survey for people that are either watching my content or listening. So I'm going to put that into the show notes so you guys can go and check that out. Please tell me your thoughts because I'd love to hear from you. I need to hear from you to make the content better, to speak to what you guys are feeling. So yeah, let me know. Thank you very much for watching, listening to this. And I'll see you on the flip side. What flip side? What am I flipping? I'm not even flipping anything. Peace.